Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to do a demonstration of a trace and transfer in the beginning of the painting. So with the tracing paper, what we're going to do is we're going to trace out the major shapes of the flower, and then we're also going to trace the shapes of color. And the tracing paper represents what's going on in your head, is what the artist should be seeing in their head. And using the tracing paper, it helps you visualize blocking out these shapes. So after you get done tracing the major shape of the flower and the petals and some of the greenery behind it, then you're going to go in a second time and you're going to go in and block out the different shapes of colors. Now if you look at the flower, there are several types of yellows and oranges, and then there are variable types of greens in the background. And what you want to do is block out all those shapes, and that will help you see all the variable shapes that are actually in the painting. And then when you go to mix your paints later on, you'll know exactly like how many different colors you need to actually mix and prepare your palette for the painting. And what you can see me doing here is flipping the tracing paper back and forth, double checking against the image, and then now I'm flipping over. After I've done all the tracing, I'm flipping over and I'm putting pencil on the back of the tracing paper, which will then rub off. After I retrace the image that I traced before, I'm rubbing it off onto the watercolor paper. And the trace and transfer is basically to get you in the ballpark. It's not meant to be a super detailed rub off or anything like that, but it's supposed to get the major pieces in there, and it's supposed to remind you of where those color transitions are going to be, like when it goes from light green to dark green, where it's going to go from bright yellow instead of the cast shadow that's coming off the petal and stuff like that. So that's what it's really meant to do. And if you want to go back in at the drawing stage and draw in a little bit more details or make the lines a little bit darker so that you can actually see them, you basically want to have enough information down on the drawing stage to move on to the next stage, which is the painting. And you're going to paint over these lines anyway. Don't worry too much about saving the pencil lines or anything like that. So now we're in the painting process, and what I'm doing is I'm going in to each of the shapes and I'm putting in a flat tone of the general color of that shape. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to go through the whole painting and put in those flat colors. And we're not rendering, not shading, not putting any details into it. We're really trying to get the big picture, the concept of the painting, right, which is the focus of the yellow flower, and the greenery in the background is a secondary focus. So what you'll see me do here is block in light yellows, some orange yellows, some brown for the cast shadows, and try not to get too detailed at this part of the painting. Just really trying to stay simple and get the flat tones in first. Every stage of the painting is helping you prepare for the next stage of the painting. So the trace and transfer is helping you for this stage of the painting, which is putting in flat tones and general colors. And then this stage is helping you prepare for the rendering and the detailed stage of the painting, which is coming next. So just watch me go ahead and build in these flats. We'll get into that rendering stage next. this stage of the painting, now we got all our flats in, and now we're going to start to render. So we're going to go in and start blending, and as you can see, like in the shadow, we're going to paint some yellows in there, try to get all the veins, the petals in, going back and forth. And this is definitely a back and forth process. This is not like it's just going to be perfect all the way through. You're going to see me go back and forth a number of times, working with colors and trying to create the shadows, but also trying to paint in the veins inside the shadows inside the lit areas of the top yellow area, and then the yellow streaks inside the shadowed area. So it's definitely a back and forth process, definitely massaging paints back and forth. Remember, I'm using gouache. So gouache dries quickly, but then reactivates. So it makes it a really good blending paint. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want. And you can like lift it up with a rag. If you don't like the paint, you can just wet it and lift it off the paper. Or you can paint over it and blend it in. You can't blend too many layers of paints, not really more than 2. Before the paint gets too muddied up. But if you stay within the color range, right, of that area, then it's not that bad. You can go back and forth a lot, and then you can lift paint up if you need to, or you can paint into it and blend it through, and you can definitely play with it quite a bit. Now you'll see me lay down a lot of paint, and then I'll go back and forth, maybe with just a wet brush with no paint, and kind of blend things out. And I'll go in and darken some things up and then lighten some things. And definitely in the highlight area, I'll be putting some whites in to blend in with the yellows. And in the darker areas, I'm probably using more of a burnt umber in the yellow area to kind of blend that in. And you'll start to see details start to come out. And it takes a little bit of time, and you don't have to go through it fast or anything like that. Just take your time. The one great thing about gouache is you can stop it at any time. You can come back to it just about any time. Put in the effort, and if you get tired, you can walk away. You can come back the next day and just pick up where you left off. So it's a really great medium. And you'll see me play with the green. I'm really trying to make the yellow flower pop more and come forward. So you'll see me several times go back and forth, darkening and lightening greenery in the back, really trying to bring that yellow flower forward. All right, so circling back to the trace and transfer. The trace and transfer is basically a visual way to break down an image, right? We try to simplify the image into flats, shapes, and forms. So we're talking about blocking out the form of the image and then plus blocking out the forms of colors that create the image. And then once we have that stage done, we transfer it to the paper and we block in those forms and colors, and then we set up the next stage for the detailed rendering and art direction of the final painting. Eventually, over a number of paintings using trace and transfer, you'll start to think in the same way. You'll start to think in shapes, and you won't need the tracing paper anymore. You'll just start drawing and painting in those shapes, and it will teach you how to visualize and identify shapes within the painting. All right, guys, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.